convening our Traffic Council meeting for tonight, March 19th. By the way, let me just see who's here. Make sure we have a quorum. Okay, so we do have a quorum. At the beginning of the meeting, in terms of the voting members of Traffic Council, I am David Kozis. I'm the Transportation Coordinator from the Public Works Department. We're joined by other voting members of Traffic Council, Captain Devine from the Traffic Bureau, Ned Codd, the Director of Transportation for DPW, our citizen representative, Mitch Fishman, Councilor Lucas is here, and then our committee clerk for tonight is Lisa Pennell. I also see at the beginning of the meeting, we are joined by Councilor Silber from Ward 8, and I believe that is it. So we will begin with our first item of the evening, which I'll introduce, and then I'll do a short presentation, and then we will call on members of the public for comment. So our first item tonight is TC 826. It's Hannah Cohen, 26 Everett Street, requesting to change the 2-hour limit on the north side of Everett Street between Sumner Street and Dalton Road to a 2-hour limit except by resident permit on the north side of Everett Street between Sumner Street to Dalton Road. Okay, so let me move some things on my screen so I can see my presentation. And so here's the location of Everett Street. It's 3 blocks long, but we're really gonna, and can you all see my cursor, hopefully? Is that something that you can see, Ned? The cursor moving. Can you see that? Or maybe you can't see it from where you're sitting.
So
okay.
we have 2 cursors. I think we have your cursor and we have Lisa's cursor. So
all right. So my cursor is the one that's moving right now. The section of Everett Street that we'll be talking about is these 2 blocks between Sumner Street to Dalton Road. There's 1 block of Everett Street between Dalton Road and Grant Avenue, the easterly block that is not part of this petition. So this is in Newton Center, just to the north of Newton Center. Here's a view of Everett Street looking from Dalton Road to the west down towards Sumner Street. And so the current prohibitions, the parking prohibitions on Everett Street are that there's parking is prohibited on the south side for those 2 blocks, and there's no parking at all on that 3rd block between Gibbs Street and Grant Avenue, probably because of the width of the street right there. And then there's a 2-hour limit on the north side of those 2 blocks, and that's what's highlighted. That's what's being requested to change, that we consider a change for that side of Everett Street tonight. Gibbs Street is the street just to the north. So Gibbs Street already has a 2-hour limit except by resident permit. And actually Dalton Road for a while during a trial period had a 2-hour limit except by resident permit, but then that was changed back to the previous conditions. So what's being requested is to make the parking restriction on Everett Street match what's already on Gibbs Street, a 2-hour limit, except Saturdays, Sundays, and holidays, or by resident permit, so that the residents who live in the homes that abut Everett Street, these 2 blocks of Everett Street, would be able to get visitor permits and resident placards, or visitor placards and resident permits to be able to park longer than the 2-hour limit. And so that is the request. And our recommendation, pending comment from the public, is to approve that request. It would allow the residents to have much more convenience to be able to park all day and all night on their street, except for the winter overnight parking ban doesn't override that citywide regulation. So we have the language to be able to vote on tonight, but at this point, that's the presentation that I have for this item, and we will call on members of the public. If you wish to speak on this, if you could raise your hand electronically, and I'll be able to call on you, or if there's anyone in the room. I can't really see very well who's in the room, so maybe Ned or Lisa could let me know if a member of the public at City Hall wishes to speak. But I do see Shlomo Felig. If you would like to unmute and you can say your address and then make your public comment, please. And Lisa, I think that you need to be able to give him the ability to unmute. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Kozas. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can hear you.
So thank you. Good evening to you and members of the Traffic Council. Appreciate the opportunity to speak. I live at 26 Everett Street. I'm the spouse of Hannah Cohen, who put in the initial request. And just wanted to comment to flag, our family has one parking space at our home, which can create significant challenges for us. We occasionally have to rent a second car, for example. We have nowhere to park it. If we have a therapist that visits our children and works with them in our home, they can't park there for the duration of their visit. And then when my parents or my in-laws visit for the weekend, they too have nowhere to park. Marshall Street's the closest place visitors can park. And when it's people have things they need to bring in and out, or if the weather conditions are poor, or if it's a more elderly parent, that can be a real challenge. So again, this would have a really meaningful difference to our family's day-to-day life, how we provide for our children. And ultimately, our goal here is to have a minimal, if any, impact or intrusion on other residents of the street, because we're not seeking to allow anyone to park. It would just be the limited residents of the street, keeping the existing restrictions in place on general parking. But it would ultimately be really helpful for us, and the neighbors we chatted with thus far have been supportive, and we've tried to be collaborative with folks on the street to make sure if they had any concerns, we would address them. And so really appreciate the council's time and consideration this evening.
Okay, very good. Thank you very much for that comment. And I do see we're joined tonight in terms of staff, we're joined by Jeff Nettleton, our senior transportation engineer for DPW. Any other comments? I saw a hand go up, but now I don't see. Let me look through here. Oh, yes. So Jamie Scarborough.
So my name is Jamie Scarborough. I live next door to Hannah and Shlomo. I've lived on the street. I'm at 38 Everett Street. My husband and I have lived there for over 20 years, and we support having our neighbors be able to park on the street. It is something that I think that the street has needed for a long time. Oftentimes neighbors will actually use our driveway, and we're very happy to do that. But again, it really, I think, detracts from the neighborhood when our neighbors aren't really able to move easily and comfortably about their daily life. And I do think that what Hannah and Shlomo are recommending, we fully support it, and would like you all to consider it.
Thank you very much. Hannah Cohen, if you could unmute. And you're at 26 Everett Street, right?
Yes. Yes, wife of Shlomo and neighbor of Jamie. Jamie, thank you. And David, I wanted to echo everything Shlomo said, but also really thank you deeply for how quickly you responded to my emails and helped me get this going. And to everyone for being here tonight, because I mean, it's Thursday evening and I can't imagine this is the place everybody wants to be. So I appreciate everyone who's here and also echo everything that's been said. I mean, Jamie has been sort of really, we've messaged her several times for therapists like to park in her driveway. So I think she's really seen how our family has just really needed an extra parking space, and we just don't have it, and our lot doesn't allow for it, which is has really made it problematic for us to live in this space, although we really love the neighborhood and the street here. But I mostly unmuted just to say thank you to you, David, because you were a tremendous help throughout this process. So thank you again.
Oh, thank you very much. That's good to hear. Any other comments or anyone at City Hall wish to make a comment before we close the public comment period? Seeing none, thank you all for your comments. Mitch.
Um, yeah, I mean, I'm supportive of it also. I just wondered if you could go back to that map, David. So I was wondering, what is the curbside regulations on Everett? I guess it's Everett that goes to Grant, between Dalton and Grant.
So I believe that block is no parking on either side. I don't remember. I'm sure I've been there in the past, but I have not been there since this item was docketed. I think it's very narrow, and I think it's too narrow to allow parking on either side. If it's not as narrow as I remember, that the residents of that block could come to traffic council with a request to add parking on their street. I don't remember right now how wide the street is, but I do know that there's no parking on either side.
I mean, I mean, again, I don't think we can enlarge it, but I would say at least those two houses there would seem to want to have the same kind of uniform treatment that the others 2 blocks to Summer would get.
Well, that would require changing the city ordinance. It's per city ordinance is very, very specifically written in terms of which exact parcels would be eligible to obtain a resident permit. And so actually we looked into this. Number 16 is eligible to receive a resident permit for Everett Street, but number 8 is not. And that's spelled out very clearly in the city ordinance.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councilor Lucas.
Thank you, Mr. Kosis. Yeah, I just went to Google Maps real quick, and that little stretch of Everett in between Grant and Dalton has a no parking sign on it. So you are correct. But yeah, I am supportive of the neighbors here who filed this petition. I just do have a quick question on the neighborhood parking permit. Again, I could be completely off, but is there an exception for the weekends for neighborhood parking?
So on Gibb Street, if we're going to make it exactly consistent, it would be a 2 hour. The signs would say 2 hour limit except Saturday, Sundays, and holidays, or by resident permit. I believe that's what they say on Gibb Street, and that's what we would be matching for consistency on Everett Street.
Okay. All right. Yeah, that's fine. Thank you. I'm all set.
Other comments? Okay, very good. So we do have the language to be able to vote on this today. There is a 20-day appeals period if this is successful. So the language that we could vote on is TPR 1039, which reflects the specific language that's shown on this slide on page 8 of the presentation, to remove the existing regulations and add back the new regulations with the resident permit included on the north side from Sumner Street to Dalton Road. So I believe that is TPR 1039, if anyone would like to make a motion for approval.
I would make the motion to approve.
Okay, so we have a motion to approve the language of TPR 1039. Any last comments? Okay, Lisa, would you be able to call us individually to cast our vote?
May not be in alphabetical order.
It's okay. Any order is okay.
Ned Codd,
Aye.
Captain Devine,
Aye.
Mitchell Fishman,
Aye.
David Kosis,
Aye.
Mr. Lucas.
I go last. Aye.
Okay, so that's 5-0. Let me try and share our screen again. And we need to be careful, I guess, when we admit people. It's now that we've been Zoom bombed again. I think the way that we handled this last time is if okay, so we have someone that we now see is in the waiting room. How do we think that we should handle this? Should we say the name of the person that's waiting and see if anybody recognizes that name before we admit the person again? Lisa or Ned, do you think we should handle this the same way as we handled it last time we were Zoom bombed?
Yes,
Okay.
that sounds
All right. So we have someone named Steven Sato that's asking to enter the meeting. Does anybody know that person?
Yes, that's my neighbor.
Okay, so we'll admit that person. All right, thank you. And I will share the screen again. Okay. So we just voted on this item. We do have a 20-day appeals period. So I don't think it will be appealed, but we have to wait until April 8th. After April 8th, you'll see the signs will be changed on Everett Street, and that would be the indication for the abutting neighbors that they would now be able to go. Okay, we have someone named Marcy that wants to enter now. Do we really want to?
Oh, so that's okay.
Okay, so we're going to admit Marcy.
I just turned off collaboration, so we shouldn't get that specific kind of Zoom bomb again. So
Okay. All right. So just finishing off about how the signage would work. Once the residents see the new signs posted on their street, that's the indication to them that they now would be able to go and get the resident stickers. They're $25 a year. You would need to go to the traffic bureau in West Newton and the police department headquarters in West Newton. Just show your proof of your address. They will be able to issue stickers for your car for $25 for the rest of this year, $25 a year, or visitor placards, which are transferable cardboard placards. Those are also $25 a year. So you can have any combination of either or both. All right. So thank you all very much. And we're going to move on to our next item. All right, so I'm going to open the next two items. Actually, the way that I did this, I created just one presentation for the next two items because they're very similar, just slightly different. So TC 1026 is Councilors Silber, Farrell, and Kalis requesting to prohibit parking on the north side of Greenwood Street between Lion Drive and Dudley Road during school hours. Lion Drive was previously Brandeis Road. And then TC 926, Councilor Silber, Farrell, and Kalis requesting a discussion and possible action on prohibiting parking on one side, either south or north of Greenwood Street between Lion Drive and Dudley Road at all times, based on a butter respondents to assure public safety, two-way vehicular access, and sufficient space for emergency vehicles. And just to keep my record, so we just voted on TPR 1039. Okay. That one's done. Okay, so TC 1026 and TC 926. It's a combined presentation. So this is the area of Greenwood Street that we are going to be talking about today. This is Lion Drive and Newton South High School just off the map. A lot of students park at the end of Lion Drive, right near Greenwood Street. And then you have Greenwood Street sort of curving around and then more of a straightaway, and then it ends at Dudley Road. We currently have no parking on the south side on school days. Someone named Jelinek is wanting to enter the meeting now. Jellinek. I don't know how we're going to handle this. I guess someone allowed them to enter. I think I'm not going to read everybody that's going to be wanting to enter the meeting. I don't think that that's really working for me. So we'll just continue. Yes, go ahead, Ned. Was that you, Ned?
yes. We can handle that in the room. I think it's a little bit easier for us. Is that okay with you?
That would be great because it's too hard for me to handle that and also do the presentations. Okay, thank you. Okay, so here is Greenwood Street. So along this, here's a couple of photos of Greenwood Street. This is looking toward Lion Drive. Recent photos just before the snow all melted. It was a little bit wider along the straight of way. I measured 25 or 26 feet wide. You see all the cars parking on the north side, and there's no parking on the south side. And then as you get a little closer, around the curve and closer to Lion Drive, it narrows down to 23 or 24 feet wide. So here's some photos looking in the opposite direction from Lion Drive down toward Dudley Road. You can see the curve right here. The cars are parked on the north side. There's no parking on the south side. And then a little bit further toward, what is that road? Cynthia Road, right? And then toward Dudley Road, more of the straightaway. So here's the background. Like we said, parking is prohibited on the south side on school days between 8 a.m. and 4 p.m. That happened over time. I remember extending it through Traffic Council a couple of years ago on the south side, and then all the way down to Dudley Road on the south side. But the issue is that, there's a lot of parking, a lot of students that are parking there. We have buses going through, we have two-way traffic, and it gets really difficult to negotiate, especially, I believe, around the curve with two-way traffic and buses. So I had two different options that I wanted to present. I don't really have a recommendation. I have two options that I hope that we would be able to discuss and see if we can come to a consensus. So option one would be to restrict parking on the whole stretch of, as was docketed, that whole stretch, the north side of Greenwood Street between Lion Drive all the way down to Dudley Road. So no parking, 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. on that whole stretch, either on school days or every day, depending on, what happens during this discussion. This shows even along the straight of way, no parking on school days or every day from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. And so if that's what we, want to support and vote on, we do have the language available to us to be able to move forward with that restriction. And that's what was docketed. So the difference is, would the restriction be only on school days, or would it be every day? And that was the difference between TC 1026 and TC 926, the two different docketed items. So if we wanted to restrict parking along this whole stretch on school days, we would be voting to approve TC 1026, and we can get rid of TC 926. We wouldn't need that. But if we decide that we want to restrict parking on that whole stretch every day, then we would be voting to approve TC 926, and we would be getting rid of TC 1026. So that's all part of option one. Option two would be to restrict parking, but not the entire stretch. And maybe we would want to do this as a trial to sort of see how it goes. The idea of option two would be that I think that most of the problem happens along the curve, which is a little bit narrower. And so perhaps we would be interested in restricting parking coming, if you're traveling toward the school from Dudley Road, start the parking prohibition before the curve, maybe after Cynthia Road, but before the curve and all the way around the curve, all the way to Lion Drive. But allow parking on the wider section if the residents and everybody are interested in, continuing to have some level of parking at least on the wider, straighter portion of the street, and sort of see how that goes. That would be option two, to restrict parking along the curve, allow parking on more of the straightaway. And then again, it's the same thing. Would it be only on school days, the parking prohibition, or every day? So those are the two options. If we do go with option two, this is just a visual of what a sign where the sign might be located. Of course, it would be facing in the other direction for vehicles would be traveling, to the what is that to the west. So we would allow parking, and then we would get at some point right here before maybe 5 feet before this driveway is where the beginning of the no parking zone could be posted. No parking 8 a.m. to 4 p.m., either on school days, or every day. So cars would be able to park, some level of parking still allowed, but then clearing out the curve. That's the idea of option two. So that's what I have for this item, and we're going to go now to public comment. I see Meng Ning, if you could unmute.
Hi, I'm Melanie. I am living on 31 Greenwood Street. I don't like option two. It's just really dangerous. The cars that are coming here, it just so much honking I hear in the mornings. It's such a major safety issue. Cars and buses not being able to pass, not even ambulances. And like high school kids, man, they do not drive at safe speed. My 6-year-old daughter was almost hit a couple times. It is just really dangerous. I I just feel like it should be prohibited, not not even a little bit beyond the driveway. It's just a major safety issue.
Okay, and did you say your name was Melanie?
Yes.
Okay, and so the addresses are just cut off on this map. So what did you say your address was?
31 Greenwood, the barn
So
house.
so is that in
I'm in
between
the barn
City Road
house.
and Cynthia? Okay, so that's
No, I'm on
between,
31 Greenwood, the barn house.
right, so that's between Cynthia Road and Lion Drive, right? It's probably
Yeah.
this parcel right there, I would think.
Yes.
Okay. Um, all right. So I think in either option, parking would be prohibited in front of your house, but you're advocating for parking to be prohibited along that whole stretch. Option
Oh,
one is your
absolutely.
preference.
Absolutely. High school students, like, I ask them not to park there. I tell them, like, you're really parked close to my driveway. They go, that's not a rule, and just keep walking. I'm just like, what? I have called the Newton police multiple times to get them the ticket, but they continue to block my driveway. And when I try to talk to them, hey, you're not even 5 feet within my driveway, they say that's not a thing and keep walking.
Okay, and then do you think that you have a preference for when the parking would be prohibited? Would it be every day or only school days?
I will defer to the others. I think
Okay.
I will be okay with school days, but if other people want to make it all days, that's fine too.
Okay, thank you very much. And when I call on people, if you could maybe also mention if you are interested in prohibiting parking, would it be every day or school days? And so the next person is Ali Schwartz.
Thank you. So I live at 5 Cynthia Road. I work mostly from home. So I see this every single day, 8:45 when the cars start to come. And I see it around 3:30 to 4 o'clock when the cars start to leave. Um, I've had to call the police. It's like twice a week at least throughout the school year to come and ticket cars, or I've had to drive my neighbor's car to turn it around on Cynthia Road when there's cars on both sides parked because my kid's school bus couldn't get down the road. This is a major issue. I'm glad we're addressing it on Greenwood Street. I actually have to avoid driving down from Lion Drive to my house that way. When school's in session, I take a different route because I know it's unsafe and I'll be on the opposite side of the street trying to navigate around the cars. It's scary, honestly. So I am all for a ban fully from Lion Drive to Dudley Road. I really do think it's just school days that it's necessary. We don't have these issues on the weekends. It really it's the high school kids parking. And I would also ask the traffic council to consider where these overflow cars are going to go, because Cynthia Road becomes an absolute mess. And is there something that we can do to also address that? Because there's cars that start to go down our street on both sides too. And an ambulance couldn't get down. Like I said, my kid's school bus can't turn down our street. It's pretty much a shame. So thank you.
Yeah. So thank you for that comment. And, we over time have heard the same complaint from different streets around Newton South. Actually, there was an email that came from Littlefield Road that was concerned about vehicles maybe being displaced from Greenwood Street over to Littlefield Road, Cynthia Road as well. A lot of these streets, we have put in restrictions over time as they've come to us. So like we cannot, right now add a restriction on Cynthia Road or Littlefield Road. We can only act on the item that was actually docketed, that we looked at, that we notified everybody of. But moving forward, yes, probably all these cars would go somewhere else. I don't think that the students would suddenly decide not to drive to school anymore. They would look for somewhere else that they would be able to park, and it's going to shift the problem to another street. I do believe that that's likely to happen, and we would be, hearing right away from another street and back at Traffic Council restricting parking, little by little until we get to the point where a more comprehensive parking plan might need to be developed, like is the case at Newton North, which took a long time to develop a parking plan for students and residents around Newton North. We don't have that yet on the streets around Newton South. But so the next person, Marcy. Go ahead.
Hi, I'm Marcy. Nice to meet you. I'm at 66. So I'm 66 Greenwood. I'm right at the intersection. I'm happy to be here today, but I'm really mad because it's taken a long time to get here. My son is a senior and my daughter's a freshman. This issue has been a severe issue since after COVID. I call the police often because in front of my house at 66 Greenwood, which is technically an intersection, the police have not written that you cannot park in front of my house. Everybody else parks in front of my house. I do not, because I can get ticketed. So if I have work people there, I tell them not to park in front of my house. I tell everybody, my cleaning ladies, I have to move my cars around so people don't park in front of my house. In the meantime, we have students, we have teachers that are parking in front of the house, which is not okay because it is illegal to park in that intersection and it is not marked and people do not know and they park there anyway. But I digress because you want to talk about Cynthia to Dudley because Cynthia to Lyons Road. The problem is not just around the corner. Around the bend is a problem. It is exacerbated by the fact that 56 Greenwood, my neighbor, has a lot of deliveries coming in and out, delivery trucks, UPS trucks, because they do some work out of their home. So that makes it a bigger mess. There is no way there can be cars parked around the bend. I've seen number of times, very close to accidents, very close to people getting hit. Unfortunately, the problem is mostly with the students, but on the days where the teachers, such as some days, all the teachers from all of Newton come to Newton South for training, or on the days where parents have to come to school, the parents and the teachers are by far worse than the children. They park in the intersection, they park in my driveway, they park in front of the fire hydrants, and it's pretty bad. The other day I actually parked at my neighbor's house because I knew I wasn't actually gonna have enough time to drive from Cynthia Road to my house, basically 3 doors down, park and reverse with all the mess that comes in and out. I had to park and walk over park on Cynthia and walk over because I literally can't get my car around with all the mess that's going on. And yeah, the kids are part of the problem, but there's just a lot of traffic on Greenwood, mostly because you got a big school there. So yeah, I'm not, there shouldn't be any parking on either side of Greenwood. And there's also a very big problem on Greenwood Street, parking between people park between Lyons and Littlefield on both sides of Greenwood, and that's not marked properly. You can only get one car through. It's lined up on days where there's snow. It's a mess here. On their days when there's rain, it's a mess here. On half days, it's a mess here. Any day that isn't a very typical day, it is a mess here. And it gets worse now towards the end of the year because there's 6 MCAS days where it's half days, and there's a lot more juniors and seniors bringing their car. Then there's just too many days like that where there's in the spring where it's a real mess because there's more half days, and it's very disruptive to the neighbors. And the children, of course, sometimes they do not know the rules, but often the rules are just not posted.
Okay, so thank you. And so you are advocating for option 1 for school days or for every day? No parking on the side.
Well, I would say weekdays, like I would say Saturday, Sunday, on a Monday holiday, you can park there. Though we do not have we don't have the traffic, but in the evenings too, it's not better in the evenings if parents are coming for parent-teacher conferences and parking wherever. Those days are the worst. So I don't know if you want to generalize it for, the whole year. It seems a little ridiculous, but certainly all day school days.
Okay. All right. Thank you. And I would just point out that these items were only just docketed less than a month ago. They were docketed on February 24th. We did put them on the next we skipped a lot of other items that were in the queue and put these items on the next traffic council meeting because we knew that this was a problem.
Okay.
We cannot extend the restrictions to something that was not docketed. So if parking is a problem on Greenwood Street on the other side of Lion Drive down to Littlefield, then we would need to wait for an item to be docketed, and we would be able to hear that one at a future traffic council meeting.
Well, I called traffic council and they said they were coming out, and I told them to come and knock on my door when they were coming, and they told me they'd come and survey the area. And that was in June. So I'm still waiting. I've called back a couple times, but I'll make another call and another request. Because I called them specifically about parking in front of my house at 66 Greenwood. Okay. So and I called them specifically about the space between Lyons Road and Littlefield, because it also gets very congested there.
Okay. All right. Thank you. The next person I see is Carolyn. Hi, Carolyn.
Hi there. Thank you, David. Carolyn Kraft, 295 Dudley Road. Do you hear me?
Yes, we hear you, Carolyn.
Okay. And so I called when I had nearly a head-on collision with a bus this fall. And so I said, this is crazy. And I'm so grateful to our city councilors at Ward 8 for Jacob Silber, Councilor Farrell, and Councilor Kalis for spearheading this to the traffic council, to David. And yes, this is unusual to get it done within a short period of time. Given that everybody's knowing this, I'm sorry to hear from the person who just said about Greenwood, but in any case, my recommendation would be to have your first proposal, no parking on the entire Greenwood Road between the Lyons Road and Dudley Road, because if you allow a little bit, the little bit will be abused by those who will say, well, I didn't realize it, and they'll still park there. So when you make it really clear that there's no parking on the entire side, you're less likely to get abusers of the situation. And then the other thing I would recommend is that what was it that I was going to say? That for continued, observation of where the cars need to be relocated. If it's not a good idea to continue up Greenwood, there's got to be something that the school has to deal with then. I mean, in terms of like parking. And your question about weekends, I don't know about the weekends, but I will say that there are football games, there are teacher meetings, there are events. So maybe during these special events, there could be restrictions that could be put in, I don't know how that works, where you can say, for that certain area that there wouldn't be parking for even that, but that's sort of different than what you're proposing in these two pieces, these two proposals. So
Right.
again, my recommendation is the entire street be between them, no parking.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, David, for all your work, because I know you work a lot.
Thanks. Next is Tammy Schneider. Okay, you're unmuted. Oh, but we still can't hear you.
Anton, eat.
So I don't know where Tammy is. She on the screen? Okay. So we cannot hear you. Why don't you try to see if you can work on your volume, and we'll go for now. We'll skip over to Paul Ash.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. My thanks to the city councilors and to the traffic committee for scheduling this really important issue and accelerating the timetable. I'm reading TC 9-26. The way it's been discussed, I don't think is the way it's actually written here. The third line, it's printed in the mailing, it says at all times. At all times means 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And I've been hearing this described in another way. I want to share my perspective on this in two ways. I've been a resident at 48 Greenwood Street since 1984. And during that period of time, I've seen an enormous change in the amount of traffic and safety issues on the road. But I went to Newton South High School, so actually my perspective, because my friend goes all the way back to 1965 when I was a student at Newton South High School, and I had a friend up in Dudley Road. So I can tell you, not that I was there 200 years ago when this road was built, but this road was never built for the level of traffic that exists presently. My second perspective on this, and I'll bring in my professional background. I was the superintendent of schools in Lexington for 10 years and superintendent of schools in Westwood for 8 years. And then before that, was responsible for overseeing transportation and safety issues for the Wellesley Public Schools. And my view on this one is the most extreme of all you've heard. My view is on either side of the road, I don't care if it's north or south, the traffic be restricted all year round, all hours. And I'll tell you why. It is not just an issue when school is in session. The road is too small for the number of cars and the speed that goes through. And from my vantage point, because our kitchen is in the front of the house, we have seen repeatedly not only buses and emergency vehicles honking their horn. They can't get by when cars are even on one side of the road. You get two vehicles trying to go there, and I realize the road can't be widened. And the reason this isn't just during a school hour problem, because if you have just a car here or there on one side of the road, and people drive fast, because Dudley Road is a connecting road to Route 9, and people use it as a way to bypass, and so it gets more traffic than you would expect, sort of in a country road. And what I've learned is about safety is you don't know when the safety problem is going to happen, whether it's when school is in session, which particular hours. Yes, the probability is when school is in session, you're going to have the worst problems. We've seen problems on weekends. We've seen problems after school. We've seen problems before school, because the fundamental problem is the road is too narrow. If cars are parked along the strip. And as a practical matter, you can't create a situation where you say, okay, during these hours, but when you have evening events, we're going to put up special signs, or when you have the teachers' meetings that are taking place in Newton South High School, we're going to have different meetings. What I've learned is you have to have signs that work where people know what to expect and they adjust they adjust their driving. So my house is right at the turn. And one thing that hasn't been said is when we try to back our car out of that driveway, my daughter has repeatedly said, because her car doesn't have the backup camera that some cars have, it's really dangerous. It's an accident waiting to happen. And I would really urge the people who are voting to prohibit parking on one side, one or the other, I don't care, from Lyon to Dudley, and use the language which is in TC 926 at all times, which would include evenings, weekends, school days, not school days.
So when you say one side is already restricted, and
Right.
do you mean both sides?
Yeah, the reason I
Restricting
say
on
that
both
is
sides.
right, because the reason I say this, the way it was written here, it says south or north. And right now it's restricted on the north side. If my preference, just keep it on the north because people already have the signs there. But I had to point out when I read this, I said, are people really considering moving it from the north side to the south side? Because that's the way this is written. And it's also written at all times, and all means all.
Okay.
And I really think that's the simplest way that solves the problem.
Okay. Okay.
David, we have a hand in the room here.
Okay. So the person at City Hall, can you identify yourself, say your address, and make your comment, please?
Yes, hi, I'm Don Fishman. I live at 68 Littlefield Road, and I've lived there for 48 years. During that time, I've seen the increase in cars on Greenwood, and the increase is in keeping with what Mr. Ash has said. It's been just tremendous. Every kid now seems to have a car that they're driving to school. I have to drive, and I drive each day Greenwood to Dudley, and that it's dangerous. Allowing cars on one side creates a real problem. I think the recommendation of all the time, whether it's days or weekends, no parking is the best way to go. It's the safest way to go. It's just hard if somebody is parked on one side. I face an accident almost every day driving on Greenwood. Thank you.
Thank you. So we'll move on. Okay. Tammy Schneider, do you want to try to see if we could hear you now?
How about now?
Now we hear you.
Don't know what the issue was. First, I just want to say I'm also grateful to our city councilors for bringing this forward. I live at 74 Greenwood Street, which is also right at the T intersection, next door to Marcy. The current signage begins immediately in front of my home. The current signage, which is the prohibition from 8 to 4 on school days, but it's as Marcy said and as others have said, it's a little moot because at the T there should never be parking allowed. It is a persistent problem. I would also advocate for the greater ban on parking because while the students are certainly a problem, my daughter was parked in front of my home and suffered some serious damage by a 17-year-old driver who was potentially late to school, who was parked, and a new driver came by and rear-ended her. It was not a pretty sight. But it's not only an issue during the school day. Welcome back, teachers. Someone mentioned right before school starts is a particularly horrible day when it seems as though every single school staff member is at Newton South. Back to school night is horrific. I've had people park on my lawn at back to school night. They park all along the lawn, along Lion Drive. Graduation is a major problem, even with a great amount of traffic realignments on graduation night. It's also a big problem. But there have been events, for example, at Kennard Park on Dudley Road that spill over, and people are parked on Greenwood. And I always wonder about, again, as many of us do, about an ambulance or fire truck not being able to get through. Newton South also hosts many regional sports events, meaning there are people who are really not familiar with the area. They are also parking all over. They also don't know where Lion Drive is because Google Maps, as your map on screen shows, it is still known as Brandeis Road. That's a little bit of a separate issue. But as I said, I would advocate for the greater restrictions. It's just not, I've also, about 20 some years ago, the Greenwood Street was kind of sort of straightened out. The sidewalks were added. In some areas, the street became a little wider. In some areas, the street became a little narrower. It overall made it less curvy, but in some ways, being less curvy actually makes drivers feel more comfortable speeding down the street. So again, if there's cars parked along this stretch of Greenwood Street, it's just more problematic. As I said, I would advocate for not only limiting it to school days, but also to all days as well. Thank you.
Very good, thank you. The next hand, and I'm probably going to say this wrong, but it's Soli Z.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, perfect. So my name is Jean. I live at 18 Cynthia, and the parking has become horrendous on Cynthia to the point where when I have someone coming to work at our house, which is frequently, there's no place for them to park. In addition, the speed at which some of the Newton South kids drive is alarming. I'm outside walking my dogs all the time, and I was almost hit twice. I had to jump up on the curb because this young kid he must have been going 65 miles an hour down Greenwood. And I was just turning from Cynthia onto Greenwood, and I was on the street because the sidewalks were really icy. So I wanted to walk in the street so I didn't fall. I'm a little bit older, and I was just trying to be careful. And then lo and behold, this kid comes barreling up the street, and really, I had to jump on the sidewalk. He barely missed me. Now, I have called Newton South probably 2 or 3 times, and they are not interested in hearing from the neighbors. They claim that Brandeis Road is a dead zone, that it's really outside of their responsibility to worry about what's going on that street. I called because after athletic events, the trash is unbelievable. There are pizza boxes, Dunkin' Donuts, cups, all kinds of bags and garbage strewn all the way up and down Brandeis Road. Now, you may wonder why I would care about something like that. I care because I'm walking my dogs, and we already have a wildlife problem in the neighborhood where we see fox and coyote frequently. So with all of that trash on Brandeis, it's attracting wildlife. So between not being able to get out of my driveway, the workers who are coming to our house not having any place to park, being unable to turn from Cynthia onto Greenwood to go about my daily routine, to go and do my errands and whatever it is I'm doing, and having to fear for my life when I'm walking my dogs in my own neighborhood, it's really out of control. And what disturbs me more than anything is Newton South's lack of response. I called the headmaster. He was on vacation. His assistant assured me that he would return my call upon his return to address some of my concerns, and I never heard back from him. So nobody's taking responsibility for this area where all of us live, and we're paying a lot of money in taxes to live here. And it doesn't seem like anyone's really listening to us. And I'm so appreciative of the fact that you're addressing this finally.
Okay, thank you for that comment. And the last hand I see is Rick.
Thank you. Rick Levin, 48 Littlefield Road. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
And see me. Thank you. I joined late, so I don't know if what I'm going to say was covered, but it seems to me that there's an underlying problem. And the underlying problem is that there are too few spaces, and every year there are more and more kids and teachers that are driving and need a place to park. So my question is, what's being done to address the underlying problem? That is to say, there's insufficient parking for the kids and teachers.
So that's not a question that I am able to answer. We're just going to be focusing on the item that was docketed, that we studied, that is specifically about Greenwood Street. And that's what Traffic Council is doing tonight. We're talking about parking regulations on Greenwood Street. We're not talking about the overall parking or Newton South. Unfortunately, that's not part of this discussion tonight.
Well, I appreciate that. It seems to me that the two are interconnected. Which council or committee is responsible for the parking?
It would be Traffic Council if a larger item is docketed. We don't have a larger item that's docketed for a comprehensive parking plan at Newton South. We only have a parking restriction on Greenwood Road Street that was docketed for today. What you're talking about is a much, much bigger, comprehensive, long-term, long time period sort of analysis, similar to Newton North High School.
David.
Yes. Who's speaking? Is that you, Ned?
I think that it's an excellent point. I think that is something that would probably need to start with the school and be undertaken by the school and by the school department, working with other city departments to kind of try to understand the issue and some options. And then ultimately the effects or proposals for parking and traffic regulations would make their way to the Traffic Council. But Traffic Council's very specific role is to discuss and vote on specific items that have been docketed through the docketing process that is established in city ordinance.
Right. Thank you, Ned. You provided a much better answer than I did, so I appreciate that. Right. So
we have comments in the room. Maybe we could take turns a little bit.
Well, can I just follow up, please? It seems to me like, and correct me if I'm wrong, it seems to me that someone or somebody should get the ball rolling and get the ball rolling really fast.
David, we have Councillor Farrell with his hand raised.
Well, start with the
no, go ahead.
citizen data.
Go ahead.
The resident.
Okay.
Councillor Farrell, did you want to make a comment now, or did we want to? I think that we're done with all the hands from the residents.
There's
at
least
one more in the room, but I would like to remind everyone, number one, that in the election on November, whenever it was, there was the most extraordinary public hearing in one respect about parking in this city, that as many people in that initiative said that we need to fix the parking problem in Newton. And it will be different in every area. But I noticed that Councilor Lucas is on your committee here, and he is chairing, if I get this right, Councilor, the Traffic and Public Safety Committee of the City Council. And they and we are beginning to talk about this issue of parking citywide. From that, I would assume there will come many specific issues to the council. But so I just want to say that to reassure people that the council itself is going to be, the city council itself will in fact be addressing parking in this city because it's huge. Secondly, I just want to say that the superintendent of schools is aware of the parking problem at South, at least to some degree, and has committed to working with the neighborhood to try to solve some of these problems, which may end up having to come to the council, the traffic council, for specific resolution. Then the third time, for my own part, on the issue of Lion Drive to Dudley, I believe it should be no parking either side the entire distance. The danger doesn't start just at the curve. It's because, in fact, people are peeling off of Dudley or peeling off of Greenwood or Lion Drive, and they're all going too fast, which is another issue. But that whole strip just becomes very dangerous and crowded. People trying to get out of Cynthia Road, just trying to leave their homes on Cynthia Road and get onto Greenwood, going either way, is a problem because of the congestion. So I hope the council will look at this, at least this piece of what you're considering, and saying it should be no parking either side. School days, I also would say it's school days. We don't have this problem, I don't believe, on weekends, but although I listened to Mr. Ash speak, but certainly school days, 8 to 4, both sides, Lion Drive to Dudley, should be no parking. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I just wanted to say, I remember very well when the Newton North High School neighborhood parking plan was developed. That was at the time that the high school was being reconstructed, on Walnut Street, where it had been on Lowell Avenue before. And so that was a big effort. I remember it took 2 years to come up with a parking plan. The school was very, very involved at the time. Actually, there were many meetings that happened in Newton North High School. Also the Ward 2 counselors at the time, the residents, also Newtonville is right there. So some of the merchants were involved. We ended up with a very tailored, complex plan for several streets all around the high school. So I think at some point we might be looking at something like this. Maybe not to the same extent, but we do here at Traffic Council, we see streets every year, different streets around the school coming with exactly the same issue. And we've been handling them one at a time or 2 segments at a time or something instead of comprehensively, which we ended up doing at Newton North. So we might be, headed in that direction. It could be the case. Are there other members of the public at City Hall that have their hands raised?
Can you state your name and address?
Bill Sage from 59 Littlefield Road.
Yes, go ahead, please.
I grew up on the corner of Cynthia and Greenwood when Newton South was under construction. And I think it's true that there was poor planning. I don't know if that's because the neighborhood was previously farmland. Maybe they just had a different attitude back then. But there's been a concern, as you well know. The issue is not, I've had my driveway blocked. My issue personally is that I have a 99-year-old parent and a handicapped family member whose access to the entrance to my house has been blocked. multiple times. I think you've received pictures of that, so I'm not making this up or manufacturing it. But it's pretty bad when somebody who's not an able-bodied person is able to make an entrance, and you're talking about a very small, wide entrance, is blocked. We put notices on the cars. Please don't park here. They ignore them. I can go on and on and on. Why is it that we're so concerned about able-bodied people instead of the people who are not have that luxury? That's what I ask.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else from City Hall have their hands raised? We have a couple people with their hands still up that have spoken already. I'm not sure if they're up from before or if they'd like to speak again. We do have several items after this, so I do want everyone to be aware of everyone else who's waiting for their items to be heard.
David, I think they're all repeated hands.
Yes, okay. So maybe we could just very quickly go through the repeat commenters, starting with Marcy.
Hi, yeah, just really quickly, because I know we have a time constraint. Yeah, I lived in the Newton North area 2006, 7, 8, 9 during all that. And I was working at Newton North. I was pregnant, so they gave me a special form, something special, so I didn't fall and wipe out because they had us parking up the hill. But the city was working with the school, and to be honest, I'm not sure if that is being done here. And if so, like, what's going on? And that's all I have to say about that. Thanks.
Thank you. Paul, Ash, did you have another comment?
Yes, I'll be brief. Having heard all the discussion, I'd like to propose a hybrid. You showed during the presentation that the part of Greenwood Street from Brandeis Road up to where the road turns, which happens to be where my house is, 48, that there'd be no parking on either side because that's the narrowest part of the street. I would like you to consider making that part of the actual motion. There'd be no parking on either side because for that narrow part, which is the most dangerous part. And then for the rest, all the way up to Dudley Road, the parking would be restricted at all times on one side. Thank you.
So I think that's you're advocating for option 2.
Yes, option 2, if I have that correctly, because this one says, you see, the way it's written, it says in the second line, it says south or north. But
well, sort of regardless of what it says, we could decide whatever we want, regardless of exactly how it was docketed.
Right.
So right now we have on the south side, no parking on
2.
school days 8 to 4.
Right.
And
so
then
option 2.
if we're going to keep that as it is, then option 1 restricts parking on the entirety of the north side for those 2 blocks. Option 2 allows some level of parking along more of the straightaway.
No, about option 2 has no parking. Yes, option 2 would be on the straightaway. It would be restricted on one side at all times. And then from the turn to Lions, it would be no parking on either side.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. And Rick, did you have one last comment?
Yes, thank you. Two questions, observations real quickly. Assuming that one of these options is adopted, where are the kids going to park their cars? Where are those cars going to go?
They will go somewhere else.
Where?
I can't answer that.
Does anybody, do any of our counselors have any impressions? Are they going to go to Oldfield and Adeline, or are they going to go, to Sevland and Levbert off of Greenwood?
I think that the answer is they will park wherever they can. That's as close as they can park.
I'd like to propose a a modified option, and that is consideration of no parking on either side from Sevlin all the way to Dudley Road, because the street is extremely narrow.
Okay. So I think maybe you missed the part where we said that we could only take action on what was actually docketed. And what was docketed was only the section of Greenwood between Lion Drive and Dudley Road. Any geographic expansion would have to be docketed separately and come to a future traffic council meeting. We would have to notify all the residents of that geographic area. We can't take action on something that was not docketed.
Well, it seems to me that you're just moving the problem, transferring the problem to other contiguous streets, and even Greenwood, down to Sevlin and Levbert. You're just moving the problem. You're not solving it.
That could be the case. Thank you. Carolyn, sorry. Last comment. And you need to unmute, or you need to be unmuted.
So
there you
just
go.
for clarity's sake, I'm a little confused now because I thought there were two proposals. One was no parking along Dudley and Lyons Road on both sides, correct? Is that the first proposal?
Both proposals relate to parking on Greenwood between Lion Drive and Dudley. That's really what's the most important thing. That's the geographic area that we're talking about. We already have a restriction on the south side, no parking school days 8 to 4. I believe that this focuses on what to do on the north side. If there is interest in further restricting parking on the south side, that would fall within the jurisdiction of these items.
Okay, so that would be proposal number 1 then, correct? Is that no parking on both sides of the road from Dudley to Lyons Road for this particular time?
I think that would be a new option that we would be able to entertain.
You could entertain that one. And then the second,
parking, we could restrict parking on both sides at all times.
At all times, including weeknights and weekends.
It could be the case.
Okay,
but then after we close the public comment period, we'll be able to have discussion about the potential implications of having no parking at all along that stretch.
Okay, and I will add to you, David, is that there are runners. The kids run on Dudley Road through Greenwood, and it's extremely dangerous. And I have called, all the kids hate running on it. I've talked to them personally, and I've talked to the coach. They all agree it's very dangerous, but they still continue to do it. So just thinking that these runners are on the road, also these kids, younger ones as well, on Greenwood. So just to keep that in mind, with all these cars parking there, the visibility, just for your vote, I just think it's important for safety's sake. Even though it's not solving the bigger picture, we're chipping away at it at least. So thank you so much for everybody's comments. My eyes are open to the traffic issue for sure. Thank you.
Yes, is that Councillor Farrell that's speaking?
A question. Is it possible for you, since you have heard from residents who are at 74, 56, 40, I mean, they're all been speaking here tonight. Is it possible to extend this from Dudley Road to Burdine?
It is not possible to do that because that's not what was docketed.
Okay, we will get back to you then.
Okay, thank you.
That's terrible too. All right, but we'll get. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Silver.
Are we going to close the public comment? Because I want to make sure everyone's had their chance. But then
I think that we are. So thank you all, everyone from the public who's commented on this. We appreciate everyone's time and comments. And we're going to now close the public comment period and bring the discussion to the members of Traffic Council or any city councilor on the call. Councillor Lucas.
Thank you, Mr. Kosis. So I think we need to do something here, and I'm looking at TC10 and TC9, basically the difference between them is school days or all days, essentially. Is that correct?
That's true.
But can we do school days and school events for option for TC10?
I don't see any way to have some sort of sign that restricts parking on school events because whatever is posted needs to be understood by the public and needs to be able to be enforced. And the public needs to understand. You can't just know when a school event is happening.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah, I was, thinking of, like that parent-teacher conference in the evening or whatever, but I guess you can't really, that would be a school event and it's not in hours between 8 and 4, so that's why. Or if there's like a football game at night or whatever. But on paper, I like TC10 during school days. I think potentially try that as a field trial for a year or a length of time, and see how that goes. And if we need to go further, we'll go further. It also allows potentially Counselor Farrell and Silber and Kalis, my colleagues from Ward 8, to potentially docket something else. So certainly a field trial on school days is a very, very good start, is what I'm hearing. So I'll leave that at for now, and I want to hear what everyone else has to say. Thank you.
Hey, David, I'm sorry, just 1 second.
Yeah, no.
If I could request one more public comment in the room from someone who has spoken before, if it could be brief.
Okay, please go ahead.
This is Bill Sage. Maybe it's me, I'm confused, but are the people before on Zoom allowed to testify, able to have a second chance, and the people here in public then? Do I have that part?
No.
Everyone is allowed to comment if I call on them. I just don't see what's happening at City Hall.
Yes. Yeah, it's honestly not that formal. We're not that rigid. We let people speak a second time.
Yeah. So please go ahead with your second comment.
I want to see how things work here.
Okay.
Everyone who's raised their hand has spoken.
Yeah. Yes. I'm sorry. Back to you, David.
Was there a comment or no? No comment from City Hall? Okay, I guess there's no comment. So Councilor Lucas, your hand is still up to, so I think that to maybe summarize what you were thinking was a trial, potentially a trial. Well, we'll have more discussion, but potentially a trial for keeping the no parking 8 to 4 school days on the south side, and then also no parking 8 to 4 school days on the north side.
Correct.
Okay. And so we could do that as a trial. Councilor Silber.
Sorry,
Jacob.
I lowered my hand but didn't unmute myself. So I'm going to hopefully try to go through a bunch of things quickly so that there's opportunity for other people to chime in. I'm sure everyone who's driven Greenwood is aware that it's a challenging road because of the hilliness and tendency of people to park on the crest of hills. It just makes it challenging to get back and forth and without facing a head-on collision. And one of the reasons I felt strongly about this curve was that my observation is people were entering, quote unquote, entering the chute. And that if you were entering the chute going eastbound, you couldn't really see that people were entering the chute going westbound, which is this area when people are parked where it's challenging to navigate two vehicles. So I 100% agree there are issues all throughout this area, and we do need to address the issues for Newton South. It's a bigger issue, and it's tied up with a lot of things, including the parking ban and how we allocate parking on one side of the street or both sides of the street, or so there's a lot of things going on. And we will be continuing to work on these issues. So I just wanted to mention that. The final thing I had briefly that I wanted to mention was to Ms. Schneider. I did look on Google Maps. You're right. It's named Brandeis, and I just changed it. So we'll see if Google takes it. But believe it or not, I've had luck changing the names of roads. So I'll do that with Apple and Waze as well. And so.
Very good. Thank you, Councilor Silver. Mitch, did you have a comment?
Yeah. So I think, first of all, the issue of parking and the issue of safety are related, but they're separate. And, I'm frustrated they don't have a parking approach at Newton South. And I could go on about that, but I won't. I do think, though, it's a safety issue. If we take Councilor Lucas's trial and have no parking during school hours on both sides, and we do a trial, I don't think that necessarily gets at the safety problem. I was impressed with Mr. Levin's comment about restrictions, I think on both sides, except for the widest area close to Dudley. And the reason I like the widest area close to Dudley that allows cars is because I'm concerned that if there is a restriction on both sides of the street, and you're dealing with 17-year-olds or worse, or 20-year-olds that act like 10-year-olds, you're basically opening up this portion of Greenwood for a lot more speed. And since there's a hill involved and people are late, it actually could be more unsafe than actually confronting a bus head on. I don't know how to deal with that except for some kind of markings on the streets to really remind people about it. But I did like Mr. Levin's approach, which was restrict parking on both sides all the time and open up the corner of Dudley. Now, I would say that's a big issue. That's a big ask. So I think I would treat that as a trial, and that would be a real trial. I think the school day side still doesn't approach, what people have said, that, there's activity at the school at night. There's activity maybe even on weekends with sporting events, etc. And I think we would really have a good trial if we closed it up for that period of time and maybe restricted people speeding around from Dudley in that open area. So that would be, as long as we're cutting up the different approaches, that would be the approach that may make sense. And I like that one.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mitch. And we have closed the public comment period. So now the discussion is going to be taking place between members of Traffic Council and city councilors in the room. And that was a good comment, I think, Mitch, that you made, because all along I was thinking, okay, I see there's definitely clearly a downside to having parked vehicles on the street, but it does slow down traffic. We know for sure it slows down traffic. And if you remove all the cars on both sides, what is there going to be to slow down the students when they're rushing over to get to school? It is not going to do anything to make the traffic slower, for sure, right? When you have no cars parked on the street. So that is a concern that I have had. But clearly we have an interest from the neighbors and the safety issue. I think this is calling for a trial. I don't know how we could vote on something permanent right now. And I don't think we need to have two items open. I think we could NAN one of these items and then do a trial for the other item. I think we should NAN TC 1026 and then just keep TC 926 open because it seems a little bit broader. It just feels like we could do a trial more easily with TC 926. And so then the question is, what kind of trial do we want to do? And so, one approach is to take it step by step and see what happens if we move forward with Councilor Lucas's idea of, we already have the no parking 8 to 4 school days on the south side. What if we do a trial to mirror that on the north side of that section? And will that solve every possible problem? Probably not. Will it solve most of the problems with the buses going through, and two-way traffic and heavy parking? Yes, it should take care of that, at least, it seems like. So I like Councilor Lucas's idea of a trial for TC 926, but let's hear other comments.
David.
Yes, Ned, go ahead.
Clarification, please.
Councilor Farrell, sorry, go ahead.
Thank you. I'm confused a little bit. 926, does it propose no parking on either side from Dudley to Lyon during the school day?
Yes, it's between Lyon Drive and Dudley Road. I think that the most important thing is the geographic area that it's referring to, and it does talk about some kind of prohibiting parking on one side or the other. I think it's broad enough that we can interpret it to have a trial.
There is a residence at 14. If you notice just the graphics here, the road narrows where the land property comes out into Greenwood. They are frequently not able to get out of their driveway.
Right. So I think that a trial, any kind of extension of a parking restriction would help number 14 to exit their driveway.
Just
right?
hope neither side from Dudley to Lyon Drive during the school hours.
Yeah, we already have that restriction on the south side. Councilor Lucas's idea was to restrict the parking in the same way on the north side.
David?
Yes, Ned, go ahead.
So I think we've heard a lot of comments from people who are experiencing a lot of issues, in particular during school hours, but also all the time off of school hours. And I get a sense from the council, a desire to maybe do this as a trial. David, are you able to go to the photo that shows the width of the roadway? Yeah, there. So, I think what we have been talking about is prohibiting parking on both sides during school hours. The fact is, even like with the amount of demand for parking during the school day, if one side it's all parked up, there's and there's also a lot of traffic. People when students and teachers are coming and going, so it just doesn't leave, especially for school buses. So that makes sense. But what would if we prohibited both sides 8 to 4, but then allowed both sides 4 p.m. to 8 a.m., that leaves a very tight, single lane at most. And we've heard that there are times during events after 4 p.m. when parking demand is high. Is it possible to consider a no parking at all times on the south side, and no parking 8 to 4 on school days on the north side? And so
Yep.
one side one side parked up at a maximum.
I am glad you said that because that's exactly what I was thinking. If we change the restriction on the south side, which we could do as part of this trial, and change the signs, basically you're moving the signs from the south side to the north side. So no parking 8 to 4 school days on the north side. And then on the south side, put new signs in as part of the trial that are no parking, including Saturdays, Sundays, and holidays. No parking anytime. Is that what you're saying, Ned?
Yes.
Yeah, I agree with that. That's what I was thinking as well. Councilor Lucas, you have your hand up.
I'm also
I'm
nodding
sorry.
my head because I was literally thinking the same thing before I put up my hand for a second time. Restrict parking all the time on the south side, north side, school days, which is 8 to 4. I think that's the way to go for a trial. The question would then be, how long do we try this out? But you have more experience in that arena, so I'll defer to you.
Right. I'm not sure, but for maybe at least through the end of the school year. And I'm sorry that we're done with public comment. We're only having discussion for members of traffic council and city councilors in the room. So Councilor Silber?
Yeah, I would just make one comment, which is that parking on the south side, in some ways, even though it probably interferes with more people's driveways, actually restricts less of the road because it's the shorter edge of the curve. So something worth considering. But I mean, I think the counterpoint to that is that there are more houses impacted by south side parking. So
I would offer that the south side is also the inside of the curve so that it has more of an impact on sight lines. So the north side is the outside of the curve and is better to have the parking on that side.
Very good. So would anyone like to make a motion to hold this item as a trial for no parking at all times on the south side between Lion Drive and Dudley Road, and no parking 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. on school days on the north side of Greenwood Street between Dudley Road and Lion Drive?
I would make that motion.
Okay, we have a motion made by Mitch to hold this item as a trial. Any last comments before Lisa calls the roll? Seeing none, Lisa, could you please call the roll?
Aye.
Captain Devine,
Aye. Aye.
David Fusis,
Aye.
Lucas,
Aye.
Okay, so that's 5-0. This is TC 926 being held as a trial. And I'd like to make a motion to NAN TC 1026. I don't think we need that item anymore. Any comments? Lisa, can you call the roll for NAN TC 1026?
Todd,
Aye.
Captain Devine, Captain Devine,
Aye. Sorry, I could get unmuted.
Mitch Fishman,
Aye.
Fusis,
Aye.
Lucas,
Aye.
So that is approved. NAN for TC 1026. We have held TC 926 for a trial. We do not have a appeals period. So as soon as the signs could be ordered, and then DigSafe comes out and makes sure that it's safe to install the signs, we would be installing the signs probably later on in March or maybe into April. And then we will reinvite everybody sometime down the road to come to another traffic council meeting and talk about it some more. So thank you all.
Chair,
Yes,
can I just cut you off? There is an appeals period. Field trials can be appealed, and it's just
You are correct. So that has changed. I forgot about that. Yes, that is new. Very, very true. So we do have, yes. So do you remember, is it a 5-day?
I remember. I'm the one who's responsible. It is a 7-day.
7-day.
So a week from today is when they can the signs can go up.
Okay, so we have to wait 7 days to see if this item gets appealed. Probably it will not be, but it could be the case. So as early as sometime next week, the new signs could be ordered. And then once they come in, they could be installed. So thank you all very much. And we're not taking any more public comments because we're going to move on to the next item.
Yeah, take care. With appreciation to the council, from the residents and the councils, we thank you for your work.
Thank you very much. And we're going to move on to our next item of the evening. So our next item is, I'm going to open the next two items together. It's TC 2925 Adrian Ayala, Transportation Engineer, requesting to prohibit parking on the east side of Walnut Street from Fenno Road to a point 150 feet north of Fenno Road. This was held for a trial. And then we're also opening TC 2625 Adrian Ayala, Transportation Engineer, requesting to prohibit parking on the east side of Walnut Street from a point 590 feet north of Fenno Road to Commonwealth Avenue. This was also held. We heard these items back in June, and we displayed a pavement marking plan that was created to change the exact location of the bike lane along that block of Walnut Street near City Hall, and slightly changed somewhat the location of the parking. And so quickly just going to go through this. Here is for 2925, the location closer to Homer Street. Here, and then, so this item was held. We heard at the time from residents that wanted to try to create additional parking on the east side by slightly changing the layout, and reduce parking on the City Hall side, the west side. That was the request. That's why we held the item, to see if we can accommodate that, if we could have accommodated that request. And we were able to redesign the pavement marking plan and capture some additional parking on the residential side. And so this item, it was held as we looked to see if the pavement marking plan could be modified, with the knowledge that we were going to go ahead and move forward with the changes. So really what we need to do at this meeting, we're not making any more changes, but we do need to approve the existing conditions and write them into the specific language of our traffic and parking regulations. So here is, this is showing northbound on Walnut Street, the layout right now. The new bike lane, vehicles parked in front of 714 would actually be parking over the bike lane. It's really not wide enough at that point, but just to the north, it gets a little bit wider, and parking would be allowed the next house up. So this, the recommendation is to NAN this particular item, TC 2925, take no action, because we could weave it into the next item, TC 2625, which is just the same block a little bit further up, closer to Commonwealth Avenue. And here's a view from that end. This is looking south. You see the painted bike lane. You see how we were able to add a few parking spaces on the northbound side closer to Commonwealth Avenue, and push the spaces a little bit, the parking a little bit, the beginning of the parking zone a little bit south on the southbound side. And that's why we held it. And that's what was accomplished. So our recommendation is to approve this item. This is the specific language. It shows really in green, like exactly how many feet north of Fenno Road and how many feet south of Commonwealth Avenue parking is allowed, as is painted currently. And so that is the recommendation, to approve these changes in the TPR. And that's the presentation I have. I can open it up if anyone has any comments on this. I'm glad that we were able to hear from the resident and accommodate their concern. I don't see anyone with their hand raised right now. Does anyone at City Hall wish to speak?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead, please.
That you heard and accommodated, and we have very much appreciated these lane markings. We feel a lot safer pulling out of our driveway. So thank you. We're very supportive.
Oh, very good. Thank you. And what was your address? You were the house up near Commonwealth Avenue, right?
Walnut.
Right, on Walnut Street. Okay. I can't really hear very well the comments that are coming from City Hall. I don't know if everyone else could. I can hear most of what's being said, but I heard that there was support for these changes. Any other comments? Okay, so we do have the language to be able to vote on these changes. This would be TPR 1040.
David, it's Ned.
Oh, okay. Ned, sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead, Councilor Lucas.
Councilor Lucas.
Okay, thank you. Can you just put up the map again, where parking is allowed and where it's not allowed? Or can you just use it with your cursor if you could, please?
Well, parking is allowed. Really, it's in the middle section of Walnut Street in the southbound direction and in the northbound direction. But, you know, it's really based on the measurements. So parking is, the way that Walnut Street is written in our traffic and parking regulations, parking is prohibited anytime except for when it's specifically called out that parking is allowed. So parking is allowed from 250 feet north of Fenno Road for 410 feet. I measured it all out. That's where the parking stalls begin and where they end. From 250 feet north of Fenno Street to what is that, 700 and or 660 feet north, right? So 660 feet of parking. And then in the southbound direction, parking begins coming southbound from Commonwealth Avenue, 200 feet, you cannot park. And then at a point 200 feet south of Commonwealth Avenue, parking begins and continues for 360 feet.
Okay. What's Lakewood Road?
This is just the way that that we have. If you look at our traffic and parking regulations for Walnut Street, it's such a long street that it's divided out into different segments. And so all we're changing is this one segment of Walnut Street that extends from Lakewood Road, which is in the Highlands, up to Commonwealth Avenue. And then then another section of the TPR, goes from Commonwealth Avenue up past, Newtonville.
Oh, okay. Oh, I see what you mean by that.
So we rewrote the parking regulations because they were so complicated for Walnut Street that this is exactly the reason. So that if we make this kind of change, it's easy for us to measure it exactly and know how to change and update the traffic and parking regulations.
Okay. Yeah, thanks. I didn't know that. Thank you for the explanation. Yeah, this is all set. Good to go.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? Ned, did you have a comment?
I just wanted to clarify a little bit behind these changes. They're prior to the repaving and new pavement marking plan, there were bike lanes on both sides. The change to the length of parking at the south end of the block toward Fenno Road, that parking limit was changed in order to accommodate a new left turn lane southbound to Homer Street.
Right. So thank you for clarifying that. Okay, so I would like to make a motion so we could NAN. I'd like to make a motion to NAN TC 2529, and then we could handle TC 2625. But motion to NAN 2925. Any comments? Lisa, can you call the roll, please?
Nitgard,
Aye.
Captain Devine,
Aye.
Fishman,
Aye.
David Bocies,
Aye.
Lucas,
Aye.
So that's 5-0, NAN-TC 2925. And then I'll make a motion to approve TC 2625. This would be TPR 1040. This represents the language on slide 26 of this presentation. Any comments? There's no changes in the field. Everything in the field stays, everything on Walnut Street stays as it is. We're just updating our regulations in the books. Okay, no comments? Okay, Lisa, can you call the roll then for TC 2625?
Captain Devine,
Aye.
David Fishman,
Aye.
Bocies,
Aye.
Lucas,
Aye.
So that's 5-0. Thank you. And then we're moving on to our next two items that I'm going to open both of these as well. TC 30. It says TC 3625 in my agenda, but I'm calling this TC 3825 for, I think I might have misnumbered this. Lisa, can you confirm that this is actually TC 3625? Okay, so ignore the fact that these slides say TC 3825. So TC 3625, Neil Harrington, 62 Fenno Road, requesting a stop sign in front of 62 Fenno Road in the eastbound direction. And TC 3725, Neil Harrington, 62 Fenno Road, requesting a stop sign at the intersection of Ellison Road southbound at Fenno Road. So I'm going to go through both of these. So for TC 3625, this is the location right nearby where we were talking about before, near City Hall and the library. We have Fenno Road coming east-west, and then we have Ellison Road, a one-way street in the southbound direction. The request is to put a stop sign right here in the eastbound direction. So here's a photo. This is Fenno Road looking east. We see Ellison Road coming down in the one-way. And then this is Fenno Road in the other direction, looking westbound towards City Hall and the library, with Ellison Road coming one way down this way. So for this particular item, the recommendation is to deny the item. I don't think that we need a stop sign right here, but we will be talking about TC 3725 right now, and that would be used to clarify the right of way. If we do have a stop sign in the southbound direction, really this is two-way traffic without any conflicting movements. So the recommendation is to not deny this item for TC 3625, and then we'll get into TC 3725. This is for the stop sign at Ellison, the end of Ellison right there. And here's a view. This is more like a T intersection. This is one way coming down, and Fenno Road is two-way. So we get these requests for stop signs at this type of intersection regularly. We're not required to put a stop sign in this, install stop signs in this instance. It is an implied stop here. In this case, and almost every case, but not every single time, Traffic Council does believe that there is a safety benefit, and we do tend to approve this type of stop sign, and that is what's being recommended here as well, to install the stop sign right here at the end of Ellison Road. Clarifies the right of way, and it puts a stop sign really at the T intersection. So that is our recommendation, to deny the first request, TC 3820 or TC 3625, and to approve TC 3725. And we'll open it up for public comments. Anyone from the public wish to speak on either of these items?
David, we have someone in the room.
Okay, go ahead, please. We just
Good
need to
afternoon.
know your name and your address.
Yeah, Neil Harrington, 62 Fennel Road. I was the one that submitted the two requests with all of my neighbors. I'll speak first to the one that we're talking about approving. Really, the issue is that that one way is topographically, you're going downhill. And so people are routinely not stopping at that because if you look at that road, if you're going to cut through to get to the traffic light at Walnut, you're going downhill. You're not looking to the left because the road turns that way. You're assuming you have the right of way. And even people turning left, you have hedges, which you can't see in this picture, and then trees next to that on Fenno. So people turning left, we're assuming they're stopping. They're not stopping. They can't see the oncoming traffic. So that's really the impetus for the stop sign here at Ellison. Excuse me, Ellison on Fenno. If we can go back to the previous one that you're not approving, the reason that we're asking for a stop sign is to deal with the traffic flow and the speed coming off of the intersection from Walnut and Homer. Right here, you can see if you go up North Walnut, you're hitting the intersection at Com. People are cutting through Fenno to avoid the intersection at Commonwealth, which I'm all for. If somebody wants to drive through a neighborhood, it's a public road. You get wherever you want to. The issue is people traveling up Walnut are going through that intersection way too fast. And we all saw what happened Tuesday night with people driving too fast down Walnut. People are taking that soft right onto Fenno, going 30 miles an hour and continuing onto the road. And this has been an issue in the neighborhood since before I lived here, because Ellison, they had to turn into a one-way because people were cutting onto Fenno and driving up Ellison to avoid the intersection at Com. And then also before me, they put up a sign that says children on it to get people to slow down. And neither of those have worked at slowing down traffic. And I know my neighbors wanted to request us put a speed bump in. I know that's not something the city likes to do because of plowing, and I understand that. But the whole point of the stop sign is not to get people to know which way they're going. It's to get people to slow down off of the intersection off of Walnut.
Okay, thank you very much. The next, is there anyone else from City Hall that would like to speak on this?
Yeah.
Okay, please go ahead.
Also on this street at 54 Fenno Road, lived there longer than Neil has, and I can attest to people using it as a speed through and not at all paying attention to either the speed limit or the presence of people on that street in the normal course of like walking down the road with their dogs or riding a bicycle. And it's very, very, very dangerous. And we just can't ever be safe in that intersection right now because of the sheer speed that people take that intersection with, particularly in the morning. You just better, be careful because you can't trust anybody to go the speed limit. And here in particular, the way that Neil was talking about it, this is a thoroughfare, and I've seen accidents there, and these this side of where that mailbox is. I don't even know if that mailbox is there anymore.
It still is.
Okay. Anyway, that is big shrubs, and you can't see anything. So if you don't stop, you're basically taking at speed a sharp turn into traffic you can't see. People do it all the time. So I'm just affirming what Neil said to add more weight to his argument. That's it.
All right, thank you. Is there anyone else from City Hall that wishes to speak on this?
Isaiah Jelic, my children are in that neighborhood a lot, and if you're going northbound on Walnut and then merging into Fenno, it's such a gradual curve that you take it at a much greater speed. You take it at the Walnut speed as opposed to a smaller residential. And then at the apex of Fenno and Ellison, it's very narrow due to the road verges and trees. I don't see how an additional stop sign can hurt. Obviously, not every stop sign is going to prevent every single tragedy. Not everyone's going to stop at every stop sign. But if it stops people once where there are so many children, or at least slows them down for fear of maybe a citation or moral injury of running a stop sign, I don't see the harm in the rejected item or the approved item. Thank you.
Thank you. So now are we ready to go to the folks that are not in City Hall?
Yes.
Okay, so Rich Kim.
Yes, hi. Again, Rich Kim. I'm a resident at 125 Cedar Street with my family, and I'm here to support Neil Harrington's request for stop signs on both sides of Fennel Road. It really is a safety concern for our neighborhood. Many of our children walk to school every day or to the library, and we've just seen, I don't know if it's because of Waze or Google Google Drive, just an increase of cars through Fenno, through Ellison, Manomet, and even Cedar Street. And we see cars in excess of 40 miles an hour down these cut-through streets now. And as a parent, it's concerning to see how fast these cars move through the area where kids are walking. Definitely in the mornings, but also in the evenings when there isn't proper lighting, they're just barreling through these streets. So, I just respectfully ask council to support this request. Thank you.
Thank you. Michael Zalis.
Yes, thank you. I'm a citizen of Newton and a resident of Fenno Road, and I have small children. And I'm voicing my support for both stop signs as proposed by Mr. Harrington. I'd just like to say it's just not safe in its current condition. And I respect the technical expertise of the engineers in their initial presentation, but boots on the ground as a parent, I don't feel safe leaving my children or allowing my children to walk and play in this area because of the frequency of very high speed vehicles that have nothing to impede them from traveling at the same speeds that they might on Homer or Walnut and carrying that kind of high speed traffic through the curves of Fenno Road in particular. It's just not safe. There needs to be something done, or there will be a tragedy there. And a stop sign, I just like to advocate, seems like a reasonable step in which to mitigate that risk.
Thank you. The next hand is Sherman Hom.
Hi, yep, Sherman Hom here, 30 Burr Road, so right around the corner of my neighbors, Neil, Beth, Mike. And yeah, I can definitely tack on to all the sentiments here, and would love to have both stop signs in place. I mean, I've been on this street so many times, hundreds of times throughout the few years that I've lived here. And, at some points, cars zoom by and the drivers are just indignant as they come by. It's like they deserve to be speeding through here, and it's awful. So definitely would love these stop signs. Thanks.
Thank you. The last hand I see is Jeremy Shaw. And okay, go ahead, Jeremy.
Hi, sorry, can you hear me now?
We can hear you.
Thanks. This is Jeremy Shaw. I live at 39 Ellison. I won't restate what everybody else said, but I echo everything they said. And I think it's worth repeating just the nature of the turn from Walnut onto Fenno makes this kind of a different situation than other circumstances. It's not enough of a turn to naturally have people slow down, and they're coming at just the rate of speed that they're driving on Walnut, which already is probably higher than they should be driving on that road. And so anything that's going to get people to recognize that they're in a more densely settled area to slow down is going to help. And I think there are issues with putting in speed bumps and things like that. I think a stop sign is going to help, and it's the people that drive through there. I mean, they're flying through. And I have kids that are in the neighborhood walking to the library, and I think it would be a big help and really improve the safety of the neighborhood.
All right, thank you. Thank you all for your comments. We're going to close the public comment period now and bring the discussion to the members of Traffic Council and the city councilors in the room. Okay, so Jeremy Shaw, maybe you could put your hand down And then the first hand I see is Mitch Fishman. Go ahead, Mitch.
So David, so is this precedent setting, or do we have other situations? I'm not talking about Ellison, I'm talking about the stop sign in front of 62.
Well, I could speak about it a little bit. I'm not a traffic engineer. Is Jeff still here? Jeff Nettleton? No. Okay. So Ned is still here though. But what I could offer is that stop signs are never approved for speed control. That's not at all what stop signs are supposed to be for. That's not their function. Stop signs are for establishing right of way. If speeding is the issue, then adding, okay, actually Jeff is back. Okay, very good timing. Let me just wait for one moment while Jeff rejoins.
And David, I can speak.
Okay. So yeah, just finishing what I was saying. It seems that the issue is speeding and a request for traffic calming, but it's clear to all of us, and we get this request regularly, that stop signs are not a way to control speed. It is not a form of traffic calming. In fact, when you put stop signs in that are regularly ignored, it could make the conditions on the street less safe. We don't want to start having stop signs that people that should not be there, that are sort of set a precedent for people to start ignoring stop signs. So that's as much as I think that I could speak on it. But I know Ned is here, and I think Jeff Nettleton rejoined to maybe speak a little bit more about why we are recommending denying the one stop sign on Fenno Road. Ned or Jeff, do either of you want to jump in?
So I'll speak to it, and Jeff is welcome to tag on. There are warrants for all-way stop control in the Federal Highway Administration manual on uniform traffic control devices that serve as guidance. They're not hard and fast rules, but they are guidance, and they do cities, towns, states do try to adhere to them to a large degree, because they do provide good guidance. They're good practice to follow, that are based on volumes of traffic on the opposing streets, and on crash history, other criteria. We can take a look at that here. I don't believe that that those criteria are likely to be met in this situation. To David's point, I think that the Ellison stop sign makes sense to establish right of way. I think that the Fenno Road stop sign would have poor compliance just based on the design of the roadway, people's expectations, the volume of traffic out there, and to David's point, when compliance with traffic control is poor, it actually makes things less safe rather than more safe. What we can do is we can collect some data on Fenno Road, look at the traffic volumes. We can we can add Fenno Road to our traffic calming program, which is we collect data, and then based on a combination of traffic volumes, speeds, crash history, we prioritize different sections of street to get traffic calming type of improvements. It's a very competitive program. There's over 200 streets that are currently in the program, and we generally only have funding for major improvements for one or two streets per year. And it is, but we can also look at it for any opportunities to add warning signs, anything else that can help to address issues that we do observe in the field.
Very good. Thank you. Thank you very much, Ned. The only last thing I might add, just sort of looking at this photo. So assuming that we do approve this stop sign here, I'm just thinking of the expectations for these motorists that are coming down and stopping at this sign. And if there is a stop sign somewhere over here for the eastbound traffic, like past the fence or something over here, these motorists they'll see their stop sign, and they'll see a stop sign in the other direction, but then there's not a stop sign here. So I wonder if their expectation would be, that the Fenno Road traffic would be stopping as well, where there isn't a recommended stop sign westbound on Fenno Road. So I'm just thinking that adding this one stop sign here could make conditions more confusing and less safe for motorists. So just that little additional comment. Councilor Lucas.
Hi, thank you. Chair, am I allowed to ask one of the petitioner, Mr. Harrington, a question?
Absolutely, go ahead.
Okay, Mr. Harrington, you had said that Ellison is a cut through, and I just want to make sure I'm understanding where the cut through is. Yeah, so if we can.
I think that he said it was a cut through until they made it one way.
So cars are coming from Com Ave, traveling southbound on Ellison Road to get to that intersection there at Walnut Street. Is that correct, sir?
There's a light at the end of Fenno at that intersection. So people will stop at Ellison to get to that light to skip going through one at and then another one at Walnut home.
Yeah.
So again, I just want to, they're traveling westbound on Com Ave. They're taking southbound on Ellison to get to that intersection to avoid the traffic light at Com and Walnut. Is that right?
Yes.
Sounds like it.
I can't hear. Can one person speak, please?
Yes.
Okay.
They are.
Okay, thank you.
And I believe that the comment also was that there used to be a cut through in the opposite direction as well until it became one way. Southbound.
Okay. When did it become one way? Do you know?
I don't know. I don't know. I think it's been a long time.
Mr. Harrington, do you know?
Hey, I bought my place in 22, so I don't think I'm a good.
15 years, and it's been always one way the whole time we've been there.
I am looking at street view from October of 2007, and there's a do not enter sign there.
I want to say it was in the late 90s. Steve was on. I don't know if he's still on, but he's lived Fenno longer than all of us. I think he remembers it getting installed.
Okay, thank you. So getting back to the two petitions. Thank you, Mr. Harrington. So getting back to the two petitions, putting the stop sign at Ellison makes total sense. I'm still torn on the one for 62 Fenno Road. This is an unusual intersection. This whole neighborhood where you have Com Ave, Walnut Street, a cut through, a bend in the road, a change in grade. There's many things at play here. So going to the playbook, we may have to call inaudible, to use a sports metaphor, if you will, excuse me. I am open to that second stop sign. And I understand where you're coming from, Mr. Kosis, where cars traveling westbound on Fennel Road to get to that intersection. It does create a confusing dynamic, but if we don't put it there, then we're giving Fennel Road the right of way, essentially, and Ellison has the stop sign. So I'm just torn. But I hear the neighbors where they say that cars are, speeding through Fennel Road. And we heard from Mr. Cod, and I just checked it online. There's 220 streets in the traffic calming priority. So we put Fennel Road on there. When is it going to see any major traffic calming, road improvements? I don't know. So I'm torn on the stop sign. I don't know what to do here. So that's where I'm at. But definitely put a stop sign on Ellison Road heading southbound. Most definitely. Thank you.
All right, thank you. And so now we have more hands from the public. I think that we have two people who have not spoken yet. So we'll reopen the public comment period, if that's okay with the other members of Traffic Council, for some additional brief comments from Stephen Seto.
Sure. Can I just note that Mr. Harrington would like to speak as well?
Yeah, just quickly, David, if it's the difference of we need a three-way stop there to not have it be confusing, if that's a hang-up, I will get all the signatures you need tomorrow and submit it to City Hall. Like if that's the hang-up, I can get that done tomorrow.
Okay, thank you. I don't think that that's the full issue. But so Sherman, I can't see your full last name. Oh, Sherman Hom. Oh, you already spoke before, but do you have another brief comment?
Yeah, just a brief comment. So we were talking about cut through streets. There is traffic that goes east on Fenno to cut through on Maname to get to Calm. So that's another thing that's why they're rushing to get there.
Okay, thank you very much. And Stephen Seto, did you have a comment? You haven't spoken yet. And you need to unmute. You need to wait 1 second so you can be unmuted. Okay, go ahead now, please.
Okay. I've been a resident of 50 Fennel Road since 96. At that point, you were able, from my house at 50 Fennel, to take the right onto Ellison. It was a two-way. One day, I took the right, and a policeman stopped me and said, "Where the hell are you going?" And he says, "It just became one way. You can't come up here anymore." And I said, "Okay." So it turned one way in 97 sometime.
Okay, thank you for that history. That's good to know. And thank you all. Thank you all, members of the public. We're going to close the public comment period now. And Mitch, go ahead, please.
Can we do a stop sign trial?
That would be up to the members of Traffic Council to vote on. Historically, it has not been favored to put in a stop sign and then take it out later on. It confuses people. It seems like historically the will of the Traffic Council was to decide whether to install a stop sign or not, and not do a trial. But it's up to Traffic Council to make that call.
I understand your point of view about the confusion, but it is such an odd intersection, and coming off there's two houses, one and a half, so to speak, and I think people who would cut through there, if they knew it was a stop sign, maybe they'd cut through, but they wouldn't be peeling off from Walnut quite as fast. I mean, we have, if people are talking about cut throughs, they're talking about people who do it as a regular occurrence. I think we all know where we like to cut through, and we do it frequently. We don't advertise it, but we know exactly. So once you put a stop sign in, they're going to slow down. Maybe some of them will start going through slowly, but that may accomplish the purpose. But it could also backfire. That's why I was thinking of a trial.
Thank you, Mitch. Captain Devine.
Dave, I just want to voice, I do like the idea of having the TC 3725. I'm weary of having it in front of the TC 3625 just because, like you say, it's confusing having it at the bend. Also, too, having a trial does confuse motorists, so I don't like the logic you have. I'm not in favor of the trial.
Thank you. Yes, I see the hand is up from City Hall. Would someone there like to speak?
Yeah, thank you. This is David Mickley, Ward 2 Councilor.
Oh, okay.
Say a few words in support of both stop signs. It seems like everyone's, unanimously in support of one of the stop signs, so don't really need to speak to that much. I want to speak to a few items on why I think both stop signs are important. A lot of points were made. One point I want to underscore is the character of this neighborhood. This is a neighborhood where there's lots of kids, there's lots of neighbors that know each other, there's people crossing the street all the time. It's the exact type of neighborhood that we want to foster and build in Newton. And with that turn, it's extremely dangerous. I'm there all the time. I see Jeremy Shaw is on this call. Jeremy and Mari, good friends of mine. Their kids are friends of my kids. We go trick-or-treating there. And it's great until we get to that turn in Fenno. There's really not many intersections in Newton like this that are five-way intersections with such a fast street going into such a slow street. So to look at precedent of other streets, of other reasons we said no to stop signs, I don't think really applies here. There's obviously a traffic calming issue, and as Ned alluded to, the realistic chance of this getting prioritized as part of the traffic calming plan is just not realistic. It's not going to be anytime soon. So while a stop sign might not be the perfect solution, so far it's the best solution that we have to slow down the cars coming down this fast. And at the end of the day, there are sort of, maybe federal guidelines and metrics and concepts of what makes sense at scale. But this is really unique. And I think what's most important here is to listen to what the residents are saying, the residents that live there that have to deal with that stop sign on a day in, day out basis. I hear that there's some people on the fence like Councilor Lucas. I hope you come over and support this. I hear there's some people with ideas of a trial. That to me seems like probably a reasonable compromise to assess how a trial goes over a period of time. And if the issue of a third stop sign is necessary to make it more safe, which might actually be a good idea, it sounds like Mr. Harrington has confidence he can get that. This is one of the sites, one of the best block parties in Ward 2, and there's cars that literally come zooming into it. We need to foster these type of neighborhoods, so I'm in very strong support of both stop signs at minimum. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Is there anyone else from City Hall that wanted to speak? Okay. And we've closed the public comment period. So, Councilor Lucas.
So first of all, it's the Prescott Street neighborhood that has the best block parties in Ward 2. So I just want to put that out there. My old neighborhood, I moved, but that's actually the best. I want to propose one of my crazy ideas, which really isn't that crazy. So I think we are in agreement that we're going to do probably a stop sign on Ellison Road. That's obvious. But Mr. Kostis, can we hold the other stop sign, meaning not vote on it? I don't mean hold as a field trial, but just hold it, keep it in traffic council. Mr. Harrington can collect the signatures for the other going the other way, which he was just talking about. He can probably get that tonight in City Hall. Collect those signatures, come back, and then we can look at Fenno Road with both stop sign proposals going in both directions together. That way we're not doing one and then maybe the other. And let's look at Fenno Road separately from Ellison, and then we can make a more informed decision on what to do with this neighborhood. But I do not recommend a field trial for a stop sign at all.
Okay. All right. So that sounds good. So would you like to, maybe let's just go to Captain Devine first for any last comments that you might have.
I meant to take my hand down. I can take it down right now.
Oh, okay. All right. Thank you. So would anyone like to make a motion to approve TC 3725 to install the stop sign at Ellison Road at Fenno Road?
I'll make that motion.
Okay, so we have a motion from Mitch Fishman to approve TC 3725. That would be TPR 1041. That would be this language to install the stop sign at Ellison Road at Fenno Street southbound. Let me just, okay. It's Fenno Road. Okay, so in this language, it should say Ellison Road at Fenno Road. So we'll make that little edit southbound. Any last comments before we vote on this item? Okay. Lisa, could you call the roll, please?
Ned Cod,
Aye.
Captain Devine,
Aye.
Mitch Fishman,
Aye.
Steve Goses,
Aye.
Lucas,
Aye.
So that's approved. TPR 1041 for TC 3725. So for this item, we need to wait for our 20-day appeals period. So assuming no appeal, then after April 8th, the stop sign could be installed pending DigSafe approval. So now we have the previous item, TC 3625. Councilor Lucas was interested in holding the item. Are there any other comments? Okay. Councilor Lucas, would you like to go ahead and make the motion to approve, to hold TC 3625?
So moved.
Okay. Any last comments before we vote? Okay. Lisa, can you call the roll for hold?
I have a comment.
Oh, okay. Go ahead, Mitch.
So, on the face of it, that third stop sign looks a bit odd. And in fact, it looks like the line would be perhaps so far back that you wouldn't necessarily see it from Ellison. It's an odd location because the distances involved looks like they're significant, and that I'm willing to hold it, but I just think it's not a slam dunk to do that either, But anyway, that's my comment.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good point. If we hold this and another item is docketed, we would need to go through a full multi stop sign analysis. We'd have to carefully look to see even where stop signs could be posted. It might not be approved anyway.
I would still rather, people don't seem to like a trial. But I actually think putting the one stop sign in, if you don't want a trial, is perhaps the more modest solution. The others start to muddy up the waters in terms of the difficulty of that intersection working properly, and perhaps encourages people to go through it more frequently if they're not seen by the other cars. And again, I'm not a traffic engineer, although I tell people I know a lot about traffic, but it just doesn't look like the right kind of location.
All right. So we do have a motion to hold. If the motion to hold fails and there's a motion to deny, and if that's approved, there's still nothing stopping the residents from docketing a new item for stop signs in both directions on Fenno Road, and that could be handled as one item in the future if the residents, after this discussion and considering all the comments, still want to move ahead and docket an item for a three-way stop sign here. But right now we do have the motion to hold from Councilor Lucas. Are there any last comments before we vote on the motion to hold? Councilor Lucas.
Yeah, just a quick follow-up. If we do approve all three stop signs, I suppose I'll leave that up to the traffic superintendent, that you could install a all-way stop sign, for each stop sign. That way the the motorist knows that every direction is being stopped. So just putting that out there. But yes, I'm ready to vote now.
Okay, Lisa, can you call the roll, please, on the motion to hold TC 3625?
Ed Cobb,
Aye.
Captain Devine,
Aye.
Mitch Fishman,
Aye.
David Kossis,
I guess aye.
yes,
Aye.
Okay, so that is held, TC 3625. Thank you, and we're going to move on to our last item of the evening. So our last item is TC 621, Councilors Bowman, Danberg, and Noel requesting to, and this is from 2021, TC 621, the request to change the distribution of time limits in the Hartford Street public parking lot in Newton Highlands to install reserved spaces for EV charging stations and or EV shared vehicles. So this item was held back in 2021. This is in the Hartford Street lot in Newton Highlands. The idea back then was that EV chargers were going to be installed at some point, and we didn't know it was going to take this long, but it has taken several years. But now we do see that the EV chargers have been installed. That means that we need to simply vote to update this one particular chart in our traffic and parking regulations, where the number of 3-hour spaces is reduced, and the number, because we want to add 4 spaces into this chart, because we will be having 4 EV charging spaces without meters in the Hartford Street lot. So we would be removing this chart and replacing it with this chart, just reducing the number of 3-hour spaces and increasing the number of EV spaces from 0 to 4. And an example of the signage, this I just took an example from the Pearl Street parking lot, which we installed the chargers, and we have signs there that are, there's no meters, but it's a 3-hour limit, so that the spaces could be enforced. People would not be able to just park in the lot at all times. But we're not actually voting on the specific sign. What we're voting on is this chart, this particular chart, that we would have 4 EV spaces. So that's the presentation. Any comments? Okay, seeing none.
Oh, Chair, I just put up my hand.
Yes.
I just want to make a
Councilor
comment.
Lucas. Yes.
I'm all in favor of EV parking stalls and electric vehicles, especially with gas prices slowly approaching over $4 a gallon. We got to do what we can. So let's go.
Very good. Excellent. So would you like to make a motion to approve TPR 1042 for TC 621?
So moved. Yes.
All right, we have a motion for approval. Any last comments? Okay, Lisa, can you call the roll, please?
Ed Cobb,
Aye.
Captain Devine,
Aye.
Fishman,
Aye.
David Kossis,
Aye.
Councilor Lucas,
Aye.
All right, so that's approved, 5-0, TPR 1042, and that concludes our business for tonight. So thank you all very much, and have a good night.
Do you have a date for the
We
next
believe
meeting?
it's going to be April 16th, but we need to confirm it.
Okay, thank you, David.
All right, thank you. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Aye.